All right, so the writer's strike is officially over, but there is still more work to be done. Let's talk about it. This is coming from the Associated Press. Hollywood's writers' strike was declared over after nearly 5 months Tuesday night when board members from their union approved a contract agreement with studios, bringing the industry at least partly back from a historic halt in production. Late night talk shows, the first to go dark when writers walked out on May 2nd, are likely the first shows that will resume. Scripted shows will take longer to return, with actors still on strike and no negotiations yet on the horizon. So it's just like, okay, the writers got what they needed, but now we need to make sure that the actors do the same if we want everything to come back fully, right? The 3-year agreement includes significant wins in the main areas writers had fought for: compensation, length of employment, size of staffs, and control of artificial intelligence, matching or nearly equaling what they had sought at the outset of the strike. The union had sought minimum increases of pay and future residual earnings from shows of between 5 and 6%, depending on the position of the writer. The studios had wanted between 2 and 4%, and the compromise deal was between 3.5 and 5%. The guild also negotiated new residual payments based on the popularity of streaming shows, where writers will get bonuses for being a part of the most popular shows on Netflix, Max, and other services, a proposal studios initially rejected. And this was one of the main things, this was one of the main points that I remember the strikes were about in the first place, because everyone was showing off but everyone was showing their residual checks, and even some from the most popular shows. And it was pennies, some of them. So it's just like absolutely ridiculous. So many writers on picket lines had complained that they weren't properly paid for helping create heavily watched properties, like I just said. So on AI, the writers got the regulation and control of the emerging technology that they had sought. Under the contract, raw AI generated storylines will not be regarded as literary material, a term in their contracts for scripts and other story forms a screenwriter produces. So this means they won't be competing with computers for screen credits, nor will AI-generated stories be considered source material. Their contractual language for the novels, video games, or other works that writers may adapt into scripts. Writers have the right under the deal to use AI in their process if the company they are working for agrees and other conditions are met. But companies cannot require a writer to use AI. So here we're switching gears to the actors. Still striking members of the Screen Actors Guild American Federation of Television and Radio Artists returned to the picket lines earlier Tuesday for the first time since the writers struck their tentative deal, and they were animated by a new spirit of optimism. For a hot second, I really thought that this was going to go on until next year. Child, me too, said Marissa Cuevas. Knowing that at least one of us has gotten a good deal gives a lot of hope that we will also get a good deal. But it might be a minute because they are expanding, the actors are expanding their walkout, their strike, to include the video game market, a step that could put new pressure on Hollywood studios to make a deal with the performers who provide voices and stunts for games. So SAG-AFTRA announced the move late on Monday, saying that 98% of its members voted to go on strike against video game companies if ongoing negotiations are not successful. We already know acting in video games can include a variety of roles, blah, blah, blah. So some of the issues they're fighting for includes, there's some of the same, include wages, safety measures, and protections on the use of AI. The companies involved include the giants: Activision, EA, Epic Games, Take-Two Productions, Disney, Warner Brothers, all that shit. So the SAG-AFTRA president said it's time for the video game companies to stop playing games and get serious about reaching an agreement on this contract. So a spokesperson for video game producers said they are continuing to negotiate in good faith and have reached tentative agreements on more than half of the proposals on the table. So, I mean, it's just so it is over. The writer's strike is over, but there are obviously other parts of the industry, actors, huge part of the industry, that are still striking. They have expanded their strike to include video game stuff, and it's just like the video game industry, I feel like, has been having so many problems, so many issues. I feel like a strike will really get their ass together in the same way that it got these studios together. Because if you remember at the beginning when we started to cover this, the studios were just like, hey, we don't give a shit. We don't give a shit about this goddamn strike. We plan to just keep it going forward and bullying these people bullying these writers until they're homeless, until they've run out of money. And then only then will we come back to the negotiation table, and see what these writers are talking about. So that's how they approached, the people who keep their companies alive. That's how they approached the people who, without them, actors wouldn't have shit to act off of, because there would be absolutely no scripts. There would be no storylines. Without them, your company doesn't exist. And that's how they were talking about the writers. Like, oh, girl, we don't give a shit. Like, we just gonna wait until them girls need groceries and stuff, and then we'll come back and see how desperate they are. And then and so it's just disgusting how they were speaking about them, or how they treated these writers. And they got the deal. They got the deal by being like, okay, so if you devalue or if you undervalue what we do, we just gonna stop doing it and see how long y'all last. Long y'all last. And I think that what was really encouraging is to see how many people just joined together and created funds so that people could survive during it, and how there was a lot of people who did not cross the picket line, and it's just extremely encouraging. It's just really good to see, especially, I've been hearing about so many strikes this year, right? I think some mail organization, I forget if it was UPS or something, was threatening to go on strike. They had to fix that shit so quick, girl. They had to fix that shit so quick. I don't know if it was UPS. It was something like that. The automotive industry now is on strike. So when I see that the actors have expanded the strike to include the video game industry, I'm just like, go for it. Go for it. They can no longer sit up here and act like, they would even be able to buy the 10 yachts and 15 houses and mansions and shit that they love to do. They cannot sit here and act like they'd be able to do that if they did not have successful shows or successful games on their roster. And you do not have successful shows or games without the talented fucking writers, without the talented actors that help put this shit together. And I think the VFX people, I think in general, but the VFX people over at Marvel voted to unionize, I think, right? Yup, CNBC says Marvel VFX artists unanimously vote to unionize. So I'm just like, I'm so happy to see this, and I hope that like this trend continues, because artists, writers, actors, these business people wouldn't have no coin. These CEOs wouldn't have any fucking funds. They wouldn't be able to fly on their jets and shit if it were not for the successful properties that you help create, that you make, So I think artists, whatever, actors, musicians, I don't give a fuck, VFX artists, whatever, we got just stand the fuck up and be like, yo, I'm not doing shit else until you respect me. And if you don't want to respect me, I'm just gonna join up with my fellow artists. We're gonna take care of each other until we drain your company so much that you're just like, okay, let's see if we can come up with some respect to feed these artists. Yeah, you're gonna have to deal with it. You're gonna have to deal with it. So I hope that this just ignites a trend that gets workers in general, just across the board, the pay, the respect, the security that they deserve, period. But yeah, that's it. Just a quick update on what's going on with the strikes. Thank you so much for watching. Love you so much. And I'll check y'all out later. Peace.